It's about to go down with Marc and Cathey, a live coaching show about dropping ideas. Marc and Cathey coach and have conversations with brilliant idea creators who are reimagining the world through the expression of their words, thoughts, and action.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to It's About to Go Down. I'm Marc Williams.
I'm Cathey Armillas, and we have Rena, Satre, Meloy with us. I have known Rena for years. Okay, first of all, you have to know a couple things about Rena. Marc, Rena is a creative at heart. No matter what she touches, no matter what she does, there is going to be beautiful little sparkles of creativity. We've had so many awesome conversations around being creative in everything that we do. She's a mom. She's a partnerpreneur. Did you get that? Partnerpreneur. Her and her husband own Pause. They teach mindfulness there, meditation, MBSR, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction. It's a whole program that runs for several weeks. And my husband and I went through it. It was awesome. And Rena wants to talk about something really cool. I love this, Rena. She wants to talk about reclaiming rituals. Reclaiming rituals, why they're important, why inner peace is important. So, Rena, we're excited to talk to you about that. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. I watched a lot of these and they always are super inspiring. So it's an honor to be here with you both.
Rena, so tell us a little, thank you. And tell us a little bit more about that, because it's so intriguing, like reclaiming, not just rituals, reclaiming rituals.
Yeah. Well, first, I think I've just been having a lot of conversations with people lately who feel pretty untethered in life with everything going on, both in the external world and also just in their own personal lives. We all know this. There's many dimensions of things happening constantly for each of us. And a lot of conversations around people really longing for some sort of grounding rod that they can rely on every day to come back to what's most important to them, to first actually just reconnect with themselves and find some stability of inner peace or inner grounding, inner connections, so that they can show up in the world in the way that they want to and not just feel like they're constantly tacking in the wind or grasping. So yeah, I've been having a lot of conversations. This has come up a lot of people who are seeking that, and some people have found little bits and pieces, but a lot of people feel like they have rituals that happen once or twice a year or ever so often, but like the daily, I like to think about like the vitamins, like what are the vitamins that are nourishing our soul, our creative spirit? How are we making space for those?
All right. You already threw out the question. What are the vitamins? Yes, what are these vitamins that you speak of, right?
Yeah.
What are some of these rituals? Yeah.
Even asking the question. Like, I think sometimes we're so busy that we don't even ask, what are those? Like, we all remember to take our fish oil and our other vitamins, but like, what are the mental, emotional vitamins?
I hate fish oil. I love this, Marc. I love that you asked her, like, what are the vitamins? And maybe it would be a fun thing to start off asking the three of us, what are some of the rituals we do? What are some of our vitamins that we do, like something that we do, or, and Rena, you probably help Marc and I a little bit more if you tell us about some of yours first, and it might inspire us to be like, besides fish oil, what else? What else is there?
Hopefully there are others. Yeah. Yeah, I would love to share. I'll start just a little bit of my own history with ritual and where this started for me. Back in 2020, when the world was already reeling with the pandemic and everything else, in June, my dad was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. And that threw me even more into a sort of untethered, reeling space. And I had a super close relationship with my dad, who's one of the most important people in my life. And he had a pretty short run with cancer and ended up passing in November. And pretty shortly after he passed, I became so aware of this feeling. Even though I had a consistent meditation practice, I was really aware of feeling very untethered and just a lot of unsettled energy in my own body. And I was asking myself, what is it that I need? Like, what are the vitamins? Like, what is it that's missing for me? Because I had connection with people. I had a lot of the other things that you need when you're going through grief. But what came to me, and it was sort of beautiful and spontaneous how this evolved. And I think rituals can evolve in this way. I woke up one morning and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to light a candle and say
Mm.
hello to my dad and
Mm.
just sit with my love for him for a few minutes.
Mm.
So I will never forget, we have this little like hearth fireplace, and I had this teeny tiny little tea light candle and a little lighter, like nothing fancy. And I lit this candle and I sat down and I just, two words, I just said, "Hi, Dad."
Mm.
And immediately, like something in me just, there was such a softening, and it really was like, I used the term grounding rod, but I immediately just felt some part of reconnection to myself, to the earth, to something. I don't even know what it was. I'm still curious about that. But that simple ritual is something that I've continued. And I want to hear from both of you. I could share more. Out of that experience came what I call sacred mornings. And
Mm.
it's a pretty
Mm.
robust ritual that has lots of different flavors to it. But
Mm.
that was the start of it. And it was so simple and just so, so profound.
Mm. Oh, Rena.
Love the name of that.
Mm.
Mornings. Wow.
Mark, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
You go ahead, Cathey.
All right. I don't know if this will fall into the same category, Rena, but maybe you can be the judge of it. Um, Almost 4 years ago on my birthday, I decided that one thing that's really important in my life to stay healthy is I want to always be active and I want to move. I want to be an athlete my whole life. And as I hopefully get into my 80s and 90s, being an athlete will look very different than it does now. But hopefully
Maybe not for you.
maybe not. Maybe I hope fingers crossed, right? I hope I hope I can still be out there like, competing. But I knew one thing is that you have to move your body. You have to consistently move your body. So I had this ritual that I started, and I always come up with these crazy things like I say things out of my mouth and then I go, did I really just say that? And the thing that I said is I'm going to do the number of squats that will match how many years I am, how old I am at that point. So one for one for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life is what I said. Because I want to do it. Like it's in order to be prepped when I get older. Can you imagine when I'm 90? It probably takes me like an hour to do them. I'm
You
like,
got your walker.
one. Yeah, with a walker. Two. Um, this year will be 4 years that I've completed it. Like I haven't missed a single day. And it was easy because, Raina, I can't wait to hear about your sacred mornings, but I have a whole ritual when I go to bed. I brush my teeth, I wash my face, I put cream on my face, I put my hair up. Like there's a whole ritual, right? And so I just put it in there. And many times I'm brushing my teeth while I'm doing my squats.
Yeah. Oh,
So
that's an
it's
amazing.
a ritual. I've had to do them in airports though, because I'm like, there's an international date line. I need to do them now.
I'm certain the first time I met you, Cathey, you dropped and did squats because you like needed to fit them in and you hadn't. I remember you doing that. So, and I was very impressed. So
You're like,
cool.
what is she doing? This is so wild.
That's awesome. That's awesome. The two of you remind me of rituals that I would like to start doing. And some rituals that I've started and stopped and want to get back into. So right now, I'm so so interested in the rest of what you have to say. I would have to pinpoint the one consistent morning ritual that I have been doing for the last couple of years, pretty much never fails. As soon as I wake up, put in my AirPods, I go onto YouTube, and I play either a 10 or 15-minute guided meditation. And that's become an important thing to me because I'm always on the run. Like, I never stop. If you look at my Google Calendar, it is packed from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. And if I could put something on my to-do list at 2 o'clock in the morning, shame on me, but I'd probably do it. But the one moment I really stop everything is those 10 to 15 minutes.
Mm.
And what it does is it just completely eases any tension. And I know it's like first thing in the morning, what kind of tension are you feeling first thing in the morning? But it sets me up for the rest of the day. And it now has to be the very first thing I do every morning. Chill, relax, reset, refresh.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Love that, Mark.
Man, I'm curious about the language you've used.
Mm.
I'm curious of all the words in the human language. What made you choose grounding rod?
Mm.
Mm. I think I feel my body wanting to, I want to move with it. And I think those are that's the most embodied, the embodied feeling of that for me is like coming back to a sense of centering and then coming back to a sense of being rooted. And that rooting is in both within myself with what is most important in my life, and then a literal like being planted into the earth. And when I'm connected to that grounding rod, it's interesting. I haven't thought about this before, but like a grounding rod is something that channels electricity. So it's like that is where, when I'm connected to that, my most brilliant, open-hearted, compassionate, loving self can show up. And it's also receiving. It's like a two-way street. So I think there's a, a receiving of energy and also a giving of energy that is very stabilizing. It's very stabilizing.
Mark, that was a good question because I don't know if when you started because Rena already talked about it, right? She really felt kind of, disconnected with her dad, just started something to kind of feel connected and can't even explain where some of that energy is coming from. So to embody it in something like a grounding rod, but you are experiencing the same thing, right? I'm experiencing the same thing. There's some kind of grounding with that ritual that we did, even if we didn't intend to do that, that was the outcome of it, which is really cool. It makes me wonder, Rena, what are like, if anybody's watching and they're like, I bet everybody that's watching has some kind of ritual, even if they don't call it a ritual, and maybe they don't do it every day. I don't know if, I, I don't know anybody as disciplined to doing like challenges as me. I'm like wild about that. I'll be like 30-day challenge of doing this crazy thing. And then I do it for 30 days and I'm like, that was terrible. But it is such an inspiration to think about the things that you could do that could be a ritual. And when you said the candle, I was like, oh, I love candles. And then thinking about connecting it to somebody that you love or you miss or you could be grieving. Oh, like you inspired me immediately. I'm like, I want to do that ritual for people that I'm grieving about. Um, what are some other things like, and maybe we just have fun and playing with it. I don't know, Rena, if you've already had conversations and you're already like way ahead of this than us, but I would love to inspire people listening. Like, what are some other rituals that we could do?
Yeah. Mm. Well, when I think an important place to start is I think it's often really easy to, or I guess in a sense, you could say that a lot of us probably have habits. It's an interesting thing to think about. Like, what's the difference between a habit and a ritual? And I think a lot of people have habits that support their well-being or their interests or their activities. And for me, personally, an important ingredient of a ritual, I used this word before, is something that makes it more sacred.
Mm,
And the word sacred can be used a lot of different ways, but to me, it's like something deeply meaningful or
mm,
valuable or worthy of reverence.
mm,
Um, and or anything that just has personal profound significance. So Cathey, your example of like doing the squats, like sure, that's going to keep your body physically healthy, but I imagine that means something so much more to you. Like the fact that you've committed to that and you're doing that probably fuels your life and your well-being in other ways than physical. Is that,
mm.
I don't,
Yeah. Yeah,
is that
yeah.
true?
No, I always view it as an investment to my long-term well-being. And that, of course, there's an emotional feeling that's attached to that that feels good. It's like I'm doing what I can because I'm able to right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it probably, well, again, I'll ask you, like in the moment, does it connect you with a sense of like being strong or
Mm,
able to commit? Like, is there more? What else
yeah.
is in there?
There's days where I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be hard to do. My body's sore or I'm tired." And so yes, there's days that I really go, oh wow, my body from day to day doesn't look the same. Some days I might be really weak or tired or already sore from other activities I'm doing. And then other days I feel great. I feel like I'm going down further. And so I have more, flexibility than other days I dial it in a little bit. I'm like, hey, I'm doing it. Like, so yeah, you're right. There's a whole array, I think, of feelings, and it all feels some of the things you said, personally profound, significant, meaningful, more beyond just doing the squats.
Yeah. Yeah. So coming back to your question of as people are maybe thinking about what other rituals are out there, I think they can be so personal. And an important question is what, even starting with the question, what is sacred to you?
Mm,
And Marc, I mean, coming back to it sounds to me, and you can use this word or not, but like that space that you've created in the morning is like a holy space. And you're
mhm,
not like nothing enters that because you know that that allows you to move through your chaotic, crammed day in a different way than if you don't have it.
Can I tell you what I'm appreciating right now? Is that question, what is sacred to you? And here's why. We're talking about the word ritual. We've talked about the word habit. Sometimes we hear the word routine. It's like, how do you work out every day? My God, what kind of discipline do you got? Nobody that disciplined. You're just plain crazy, right? What's important to you versus what is sacred to you?
mm,
I think that question, I don't know how often you use that question, but that is a critical question I don't often hear.
mm,
Because as I was listening to both you and Cathey, and then you breaking it down, I'm like, well, am I just doing a routine or a habit?
mm,
And then you got me to think, Why am I doing it? Why is it so sacred to me? I'm wondering how many people come across that question.
Yeah.
That's
Rena, I love this where this conversation is going because if somebody's watching, it's not like we're just throwing out things that maybe might connect. You really got to the heart of what is important and meaningful to them. And I love that too because sometimes maybe people don't make the connection to those things. For instance, Mark, with your busy schedule, you're like, I have to have 10 or 15 minutes. Like how will I continue to live my life like this, take care of my family, do my work, connect with my friends, do things that take care of myself if I don't give myself that space, right? So if something that's sacred to you is to be able to maintain your active lifestyle, you have to find a way, you have to find a ritual that will allow for that. And I think that's why I really love that question too, Raina, because when you find the thing that's most important for you, you almost reverse engineer it. You grieving your dad and the relationship the two of you had. I was like feeling it again because I know all about your dad and the relationship that you two had and how much love you have for him. And so my heart was melting when you said that. I was like, "Oh, that you know, it was important enough to you that you found a way to continue it. You didn't just say, I'm just going to grieve that he's not physically here." And I'm like, oh, like just super powerful. That's all I have to say. It's just very, very, very powerful.
Thanks, Cathey. And I love that word powerful, coming back to the grounding rod. I think the whatever it is doesn't necessarily matter, but I think it's also the intention that you bring to it. And there's a difference, at least in my experience, and I noticed that like there are the mornings, and usually I catch myself, but we can do anything rote. So I could light the candle and sit down and say hi, Dad, but not be present for that moment, and then it becomes hollow. Whereas, and I think that's part of the sacredness of it too, is even thinking about it like that. And I love that word. It's sort of an edgy word. And I'd love to hear more too from you two about even when you first hear it. There's some people feel resistance because they immediately think religion and that's confining, but this sense of really getting in touch with, for us personally, that which is sacred or deeply meaningful, and having something in our life that welcomes us into that just seems, yeah, it's life moves so fast in the horizontal plane. And if we can't drop into that vertical space, and I think that the sacredness is often the doorway, then we're just cruising.
Yeah.
what's the process for you for figuring out the difference between just simply important to sacred? Like, how do you get to that point where it now becomes sacred?
Mm, mm. I think for me, I have a practice of meditation. So sitting quietly is often a very first gateway. And then a question that has been really helpful for me continuously in my life is the question, what do I long for?
Mm,
And asking it without trying to answer it intellectually, because the mind can jump in pretty quickly and say, well, I know you want new sneakers and the world to be fixed and whatever, blah. But if you ask that question over and over, and people who have any sort of contemplative practice, Mark, you might even know, and Cathey, you too, it's like it it settles and it settles and it settles, and then you open the door to something deeper in yourself that I often find is a reservoir that holds the answer to that question of what is sacred, what is most sacred to me. And that is, mm, what's coming to mind, I'll just say it, is when I think of what's important, often they're more like tangible logistical things. And when I think of what is sacred, for me, it's like a spiritual, there's like a
Mm.
spiritual answer to that question.
Mm. I
Yeah.
Mm.
love that you asked that, Mark. My knee jerk to that, and I love that, Rena. I can see a difference between something tangible and something that's untangible, something that feels more powerful. I wrote down, because I was like, sacred to me. I love the word, by the way. And I
Mm.
love when you take a word that normally, if you heard it, you might think the first thing I think people would think is a religious, but the way that you're saying it definitely doesn't sound religious, right? It adds the personal touch. And when I first heard it, I wrote down, what do I want to protect, hold, and value? And I the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about that being sacred for me is like relationships, you
Mm.
know? They are the most sacred thing that I have. Um, like I would do anything to value that. And then that makes me think there's probably rituals I'm already doing to maintain my relationships. I would put them more into rituals than habits, right? Because I'm longing to do them. I love to do them. It's because of my love and my this sacredness, but it feels so different now. And then it made me think, what rituals would I want to start doing for these things that are so sacred to my heart, you know? So anyway, that's where my brain landed with that, or my heart, whatever. I don't know where it came from, both.
I I love it. I love it. And I think it's interesting when you talk about relationships with people, it also makes me think about like in many senses, all of life is sacred and precious, but we aren't awake to that until
Mm,
someone dies or someone gets ill or we get jostled into it. And so
yeah.
and I think relationships are one of those ingredients where what would it be like to live into that recognition that this is a sacred, like even your partner who you see all the time and
Yep.
like you love them and la di da, like they're like
Yeah.
what is it to
La-di-da.
woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like different. What is it like to hold them in that space of this is a sacred ingredient in my life? It's powerful.
Can I add one more layer onto it? And Mark, I actually would love for you to be the first one to kind of respond to this because I feel
Mm.
like you're at a precipice on this. I've been thinking a lot lately. You both know I have adult children, right? And sometimes I wake up and I feel a really heavy loss I think most parents will go through this. You saw those years that you felt like there were so many years of your kids being little, and now all of a sudden they're behind you, and there's a there's a change in it, and it brings some pain. It also there's a little pain because it's change, and you wish you could have some of these moments back. But it also reminded me that every sacred relationship that I have to understand the sacredness of that. Part of the sacredness of that is that it'll never ever stay the same, ever, ever, ever. Not even day to day. We think it's the same, and it's not. If I look at any relationship I have in my life of how it looks today and exactly 1 year ago, it's a little bit different. And so it's always changing. And that makes me feel like it's even more sacred to know it's never going to stay the same, even if it feels la di da. And Mark, your kids are at that age now where they're growing up, and you, like I said, you're on the edge of this, like where you can really see a big difference in the relationship where they once are in your home and now they're going off to college.
You're trying to get me all choked up,
I
Kathy.
know, sorry. Sorry, Mark. I'm like, boom, I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Rena, so I've spoken about this one ritual before. So my youngest son, every morning when we leave the house at the same time every morning. I'm going to work, he's going to school. And we walk out the door, and he goes that way, and I go this way. And about every 7 steps, I turn around and he turns around, and we wave. And we do that until we get to the end of the corner. The last wave goes from this to like this. I mean, and we're talking about a city block, right? Like too far away from me to kind of see him. And sometimes, people are on their way. So you kind of have to look around. This one woman stopped me on the street one day, and she goes, I have to tell you, I went to work the other day so happy because I get to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know if other people, you're not even paying attention. I'm not doing it for other people to see. Well, at the end of this school year, he's going to high school.
Wow.
He's not going to be walking up the block. Like that ritual will have to come to an end, or it will have to find a way to reinvent itself. And so, Cathey, when you ask the question, like, what ritual could I do? It makes me think that's such a powerful question for people to ask. First, I was thinking, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, the ritual or the figuring out what's sacred? I don't know. I'd be curious what you all think, but I know what's sacred. And now, because a particular ritual is going to come to an end, I've got to figure out why that was so important for me to do every day. And how do I embody it in a different way? Because it's important. And I encourage everybody who's listening to really take a page out of this book and ask yourself, what is sacred? What am I longing for? How do I embody that through a ritual? And if there comes a point where you have to change the ritual, what does it look like?
Rena, can I ask you a question? Because Marc, that is such a deep thought. You made me even also think, oh, we are layering on this so well. I love this. Now you're talking about when a ritual turned into like some profound memory that you have with a person. Like you make me think, okay, right now I'll tell you about this silly one that we do now, but I realize the significance of this. We play Yahtzee with the kids in the house now, the grandkids, right? And every time somebody gets a Yahtzee, we have like a circular downstairs. So you have to do a lap and go Yahtzee, and you run and you do a victory lap, right? And then you do all whatever. And I thought about it one day because we've been doing it for a couple of years now. And I thought about it one day and I'm like, wow, someday when I'm not even around and maybe they have grandkids, they're probably going to do the same thing. Or even if it stopped, it became a memory. And so sometimes the rituals, like Marc and his son, like it went from being a ritual that now the timing might be off, but that memory is deep. So the question I have for you, Rena, is just thinking about that, thinking about rituals can transform into really sacred memories and maybe sacred traditions that maybe even run. There's some ritual that you start that your daughter will end up doing, and or I don't know. I'm just curious about that because now I'm thinking about how it could transform into like a tradition or a memory.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I just pictured your son, Marc, doing that with his own kid as he goes off to school.
Yes. Oh, I know, Marc.
That's it's so beautiful. Yeah,
Wonder.
and that's sacred. I love that you brought that up, Cathey, because I do think our memories, there's like, yeah, what's coming up is like the recognition that life is so bewilderingly precious. And they're like when things when we recognize or bring in the sacred element, whether it's in a memory or something we're currently living, or perhaps something to come. I want to think about that one, but it
Mm,
just, yeah, it's it's like the most meaningful stuff in life.
mm,
It feels so important to be talking about. I'm just having an upwelling of gratitude for
mm.
like holding these questions.
Yeah, same.
And I'll
I
jump in. Yeah.
no, go right ahead.
I'll just share. I'm smiling because I have here. I'm at this space where I do my own sacred morning ritual, and something that my mom made me. I can actually hold it up, but part of my morning practice, Cathey, back to your question of like, what are some of the other rituals? Lighting a candle is one, and then for me, growing up, I had very little connection with my ancestors. I knew like my grandparents and I knew of my great grandparents through stories, but that wasn't something like a real sense of lineage wasn't something that was like actively um, acknowledged or talked about a lot like it is in other cultures. So that's been part of my own practice. And my mom for my birthday last year made this it's an accordion fold out
Oh,
of my ancestors all the way down to this is my daughter, Mia, at the end here. It's me and then Mia. So I'll fold this out. I have like a whole setup that's sort of ridiculous, but I'll fold it out and then the candle is there and I have a picture of my dad and a few other things. But it's like
mm,
when you ask that question about memories, it like brings in that importance of lineage. And I think we can't talk about what is sacred without naming that or honoring it.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
Wow, talk about emotional.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, that is so beautiful, Rena, by the way.
Thanks. Thanks for letting me share it. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for being so open with that. Um, it just really speaks to the beauty. And Cathey, I'm glad you brought this up. It's the beauty of creating a memory, creating a legacy, creating something well beyond your years,
Mhm.
creating a connection.
Mm.
When I think about the way you're using the word ritual and sacred, and you said your daughter, my son, your children, your grandchildren, like they'll either remember it and they'll embody it. Like to me, that's that next level of ritual. It's gonna carry on. It's not just something you do every day, but it's something that will be done beyond you. Or it might be something you do, but your daughter, your grandchildren, your son, your friend, they'll notice it. And there's something they can tell that is so meaningful about it that it becomes you.
Yes, yes.
And it's really
Mm,
inspiring to witness someone experiencing something sacred, like the woman who watched you on the street waving at your
Yeah.
kid. Like that had a lasting impact on her.
Yep.
And whether, whether would she would say I'm witnessing a sacred moment or not. Like
mm.
Yeah.
it's back to that like connection and that people feel that. And I think we need maybe coming back to the idea of reclaiming. I think that in all of the distractions and the preoccupations with daily life, we can sort of lose there's I would argue there's not enough space for really letting ourselves be present with and talking about and like honoring these moments. And we need to reclaim them. We need
Mm.
to move them back to the foreground.
I feel like we've been replacing the daily ritual with the daily grind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, why do you think that happened?
Mm.
Why do you think we started replacing the daily ritual with the daily grind? I just stumped you, didn't I?
We're both like, hmm.
Well, I will tell you what comes to my mind from. I think the daily grind has become this thing where I'll use your word earlier. We've become so focused on achieving the tangible. The
Yeah.
tangible has become so important um, that it has replaced the spiritual. It has replaced the centering of ourselves. Like, it's all right if I'm off kilter as long as I get this, whatever this is. And we've become so focused on it, on that, on the external, that we have lost sight of the internal.
Oof, Mark, that is so good.
Mm.
I watched I watched this psychologist the other day, just like a really short video. It was very profound. He talked about the difference between pleasure and happiness, and he went through it one by one. He was like, pleasure, like it's in the moment, you feel it now. It, but it's short term. Happiness is long term, right? The pleasure is the short term. And he went through it one by one and showed the difference. And I think you're pointing out the same differences between like the daily routines and the grind as opposed to the rituals. And the rituals, and I started thinking about it when you said daily grind, they don't have to happen every day either. I now that I come to think about it, there's a really important because now I'm thinking legacy level things, things that will continue, things that have bigger meaning beyond yourself. Me and my sister, we weren't really close growing up, like not at all. And now we're like best friends, and I love my sister. And so we love visiting each other. And I got her into playing pickleball. And our family comes from Chicago. We're all like my mom and dad met in Chicago. Both sides of our family are from Chicago. So our roots are deeply rooted in Chicago. Um, when we play pickleball, every time the score gets to 3-1-2, we go, let's go Chicago. That's what we say. 3-1-2 is the original area code for Chicago. And it's a kind of it's a fun ritual that I've now heard other people that are from Chicago say it. Or because Rose, who works with us, she said she's from Chicago. She's like, let's go Chicago now. She does it. Um, and I've had other people that I play with like look up and see like 2-1-2, I think is New York or like, you know. But there's these rituals that have really deep meaning that are not, they don't also have to be daily, I think, right, Rena? Like that only happens a particular time, but it happens all the time when I'm with my sister in those moments, right? And they're profound, they're significant, they mean something, they connect us, you know?
So that's the benefit of it. And what I'm about to ask is probably maybe already answered. Rena, what happens? What's the, I'll be extreme and use the word danger. What's the danger of us not reclaiming our
Mm.
rituals?
Well, I think in many ways we're witnessing it already with what is happening in the world. Um, and I think I loved what you said, Mark, about the emphasis on the external and the productivity, the progress, and how that has really eroded. It's distracted, it's eroded. You could use a lot of different words, but it's really taken us away from, um, yeah, what is life giving. And it's very destructive. And I think, like, personally, we risk, um, again, like you said, getting a lot of shit done and having a lot of like things checked off on paper, but there's like a meaningless efficiency that happens. And at some point we might wake up and go,
Mm.
oh my God, this is my life. Like this is precious. And where have I been? And I think it comes back to like values too. Like, what is actually, why do I get up in the morning? What is actually important? What do I like coming back to that, not so that I can get my taxes done and run my business, but like what is actually there? No human, um, regardless of how much they love their work or their external preoccupations, like no human is living for that reason.
Mm.
So I think personally, we risk not living our most meaningful, fulfilled, beautiful life. And of course, that impacts the people around us. And then I think collectively, we risk this great destruction that is happening, and a sense of separation and a sense of divisiveness, and um, so many arguments over things that actually don't matter, but take up so much space and airtime that it's just, there's no room for anything else.
Mm.
What do you think? Or I would love to hear what comes up for either of you.
First of all, thank you for your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I think the danger, I want to add to it. I don't just want to repeat it. I think the danger in not reclaiming our rituals is, I feel like we lose our significance is coming to mind for me. I feel like we always ask this question, like, what's my purpose? Why have I been put on this earth?
Yeah.
And, it's like, oh, I was put on this earth to inspire millions of people. Maybe I was put on this earth to inspire this person here. I heard somebody say the other day, he goes, I don't really think so much about what other people think. And he goes, that wasn't always the case, but it became the case when I learned how to value myself first.
Mm.
I think the danger in not reclaiming our rituals is that we will lose ourselves.
Mm.
And I think we need to think about what that means to lose yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Marc, before you even said it, that was the thing I was thinking. And then you said significance, and I was thinking we lose ourselves. So I'm right in line. I feel like the danger, especially if you think about that internal, intrinsic motivation and external motivation, is like there's something that you lose that's uniquely you, that only you have the relationships in your life that you have, only you have the connections to whatever things you value and love the most, whether it be nature or music or arts, the things that are more motivating than the things that you have to do. There's a unique um, DNA or a fingerprint, if you will, of who you are as a person and how you interconnect into this world. And so when you say you lose yourself, Marc, I think you start to lose all of the things that are composed of who you are. And it's not just you, there's extensions of you everywhere, you know. When you have kids, they're extensions of you. They're part of now your family and your connection and the relationships. And those are the things I was thinking, because some of the rituals that I had, like I said earlier, are they're attached to my relationships. You know, I have this cute little ritual, and I saw it on a show the other day. They didn't go as far as we go, but me and my daughter Allison always had this thing where we would say it to each other, and then it turned into text, right? Where we would go, I love you, and then the other one would say, I love you more, and then the other one would say, not possible. That's how it always went. And it was usually she would say, I would say I love you, she would say I love you more, and then I would say not possible. And so now Abby and I have started doing that, her daughter, right? And it's just a little thing, but it's a big thing, right? It's a little big thing. Um, but it's what connects us in our relationship. This is such a
It's so sweet. I
meaningful.
there's no small, there's no little
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Rena, this is such a profound. When you first said rituals, I was like, oh, I love this. It sounds awesome. And now I'm like, this is so deep and meaningful. And I do love this, but in a way that is different than how I originally thought.
Hmm. Rena, can I ask you one other thing? Um, how do you speak about rituals with your own daughter? And what, I don't even know if I want to ask what rituals do you encourage her to do, because I'm just trying to think. Do you encourage a ritual, or
Mm,
just you have to just figure out what your ritual is?
mm, mm. My first thought response to that is that for me, I I feel like I can model ritual and I can welcome into ritual. I think ultimately my daughter's name is Mia, like I think she'll find her own way and hopefully keep some of our rituals and of course find her own. Um, but I'll share a simple ritual that I have with her right now. Actually, Ryan and I will both do this. We sing to her at night, and
Mm.
before she goes to bed, the last song that we sing is uh, a loving kindness song. I don't know if you're familiar with loving kindness practice, but there are four simple phrases. It's um, may you be happy, may you be healthy and strong, may you feel peace in your heart, may you feel deeply loved, and
Mm.
sing that um, to the tune of some like Twinkle Twinkle. Some we've put it
Yeah,
some like
yeah.
time, so it sounds really great. And part of that practice is then you can start to extend it. So, may she called Grandma Kay is her grandma. May Grandma Kay be happy. And she's just starting to develop language. So we're starting to invite her into, who do you want to share this phrase with?
Aw.
And I think, yeah, it's another grounding rod of like just knowing that we have that moment as a family together and that those are our real deep wishes for her to feel happy and healthy, like those things. And then bringing the sincerity to that and then inviting her to um, participate. I don't know.
Mm,
It feels really
mm.
full. And I hope that's one she'll carry forward.
Mm.
I
That's
love that
beautiful.
one. That is so beautiful.
Beautiful.
Mark,
Wow.
you remember we had, and Rena, I know you know who he is. I don't know if you had ever met him, but my friend John Waller
Mm,
that
yeah,
recently passed.
yeah.
Um, he was on our show after he found out that he had stage 4 colon cancer. And when he came on the show, he had this really beautiful concept, something that he had learned, he had heard about, right? The concept wasn't his own original. He had heard about it, but he explained how it had shown up in his life. And it was under the no ordinary moments, that there's no such thing as an ordinary moment because any moment had the potential to be something greater than it was. And it my thought just kind of merged with that a little bit on what we're talking about because when you were talking about singing this to Mia and the possibility of the significance of something in the moment could be like, oh yeah, we do this thing, we do it right now, and she's just really young at the moment, and what the significance of that could look like 10, 15, 20, 30 years from
Mm.
now really brings some kind of joy to my heart. I'm even sitting here looking at a my niece Maya, my sister's daughter, made this rock for me when she was a kid, right?
Mm.
And she made it. It was from Maya. And at the moment, it was probably no big deal. She just took like a regular old, you know, cracked rock and painted it and wrote my name on it and stuff. But the more time that's passed since the day she made it, the more significant it becomes.
Mm.
She's now in college.
Mm.
There's going to be a day that she gets married. There's going to be a day that she has kids. She has a kid. She made this when she was a kid. You know,
Mm.
significance grows,
Yeah.
right? I think when there's loving kindness and there's intention, and I think when there's rituals and what's attached along with it, I think it it can morph and change, but in some ways the significance can grow a lot, you know,
Yeah.
even if it changes.
Yeah. Mhm.
I see that image of the footprint. It was a framed picture in my Aunt Grace's bathroom.
Mm.
That age old, leaving
Yep.
footprints and significance. We fight so hard for like, listen, not that I don't want to leave generational wealth. Don't get me wrong. Not that I don't want to set my children up for some kind of success that they don't have to worry. But whatever you create and whatever gold watch you get at the end of your career and how many, dollars and cents you got in your bank account, when it's all said and done, you're going to be remembered because of the rituals
Mm.
that you've created and the rituals that you've passed on.
Mm.
Mm.
Cathey, I'm enjoying our ritual of getting together every time for it's about to go down.
I know, me too. I'm feeling the same.
And just think, like, the ideas you've planted in this, I watched some of them. They're phenomenal. Like, the ideas
Mm.
are now carried in all of these other humans, and and they'll pass them on. Like, I'm sure people watching this one too might start a ritual, and so just that ripple is so
Mm.
flippin' cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
Well, today you are the flippingest, coolest
Yes.
of them all. You
Yes,
are.
I love it. The flipping
And
is the
so,
coolest of them all.
yes, yes, yes. And so, Cathey, I'm going to ask you first, and then I'm
Okay.
going to ask you. What's the flippingest, coolest thing that you are going to take away from this conversation today?
Oh my gosh, so much. Okay, there's something that Rena said that I didn't want to let it pass. You know, she said that there's a lot of meaningless efficiency. And on the flip side of meaningless efficiency, there's another type of efficiency. And I don't know what term to give it but I thought about the flip side when she said that. And what I really value today and what I'm feeling in my heart so much is that rituals create an efficiency of its own, but it's the kind that is love and hope and joy and connections and relationships and other it's meaning, not meaningless, right? It's meaningful. And that's what I'm taking away today is just how much more meaning there is in life and how I can just have my eyes open to that a little bit more.
Yes. For me, the flippingest, coolest thing that I'm walking away with today, and it's two things. It's one, it's the visual of the grounding rod. I find myself to be very visual in the way that you explained it,
Yeah.
the centering, the rooting, the planting in the earth, the
Mm.
receiving and the giving of energy. Like I'm walking away with that. And I'm walking away with such a powerful question of what is sacred to me?
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
going to be carrying that question for a long
Mm.
time through many conversations with many people. Rena, what's the flippingest, coolest thing that's you're walking away with after today's conversation?
Oh man, so much. There are no small, there's no such thing as a small ritual.
Mm.
And this idea of intergenerational rippling with the little things that we either do for ourselves or each other, and how that really matters, really matters.
Mm.
And I'm also just feeling what just came to me is like this conversation feels sacred, like creating a
Mm.
container to come together without an agenda, which I think is something that's really to like allow not the efficiency, but like the space for something beautiful and generative to just emerge. You all, you both created that. You created every time you do that. And that is deeply meaningful and
Mm.
feels, honestly, feels sacred to be a part of. So
Mm.
thank you. I will carry so much of this forward with me.
Thank
Mm.
you. And the feeling is mutual.
Mhm.
Feeling is mutual. Rena, for anybody who wants to pause and learn more about you, learn about what's sacred to them, and how they can start creating rituals in their own lives, how can they find out about more about you?
Yeah, our website, well, our business is called Pause Meditation. Our website is pausemeditation.org. And we have a really thriving community of people who love to meditate, are interested in meditating. We're an international community now. We do a lot of stuff online and in person. And if anybody is interested, we would absolutely love to connect.
Hmm. Connect, 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 and ritualize.
Mm.
We are ritualizing today's conversation because we are holding it sacred to our hearts.
Mm.
And to anybody else out there who has an idea that you want to share, know that Cathey and I, we hold the opportunity to have a conversation with you to the highest regard. So please reach out to us. Let's have an organic, free-spirited conversation about how you can leave your meaningful significance with the rest of the world. Rena, you are flipping cool. And
Yes.
thank you
Yes.
for spending your time with us.
Yes.
You made it go down just
Yes.
like every time we do this show called It's About to Go Down.
Down.